Just a single pipe, sticking out of the ground in what everyone thought was just a dead volcano deep in a Polish forest. I mean, it looks like it didn't belong at all. So what do? You send the camera down. And what that camera saw, nearly 100 feet below the surface, would completely rewrite the history of this quiet, forgotten piece of land. And believe it or not, that one discovery kicks off a much, much bigger story. Today, we're digging into the secret concrete underworlds of World War II. It's a story of incredible fortifications, brilliant and brutal strategy, and lost history that, as you'll see, is still being discovered. All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll start with that wild discovery in Poland. Then we'll ask, why go underground in the first place? We'll look at Hitler's insane Atlantic Wall, see how the Allies managed to fight back, and finally, explore the legacy of all this hidden history. Okay, first up, a mysterious discovery. Let's head back to that forest in Poland, where a piece of the past literally emerged from the earth. So, picture this. It's March 7th, 2018. An excavation team near Lubin, Poland finds that pipe. They drop a night vision camera 30 meters down, and boom, their screen shows this huge man-made tunnel. And then, the clincher. Local authorities show up with an actual 80-year-old map from the war, confirming exactly what it was, a long-lost Nazi tunnel. And what they found inside, wow, it was like a time capsule. The entrance was sealed with huge stones, totally overgrown. But inside, a railway track, a minecart, shovels, picks, all just sitting there, rusted, but exactly where they were left 80 years before. It's as if the workers just dropped their tools and walked away one day. Now, this bunker in Poland, it wasn't some one-off thing. Not by a long shot. It was part of a massive strategic shift that defined the entire war. So that brings us to the big question. Why go underground? Well, these underground forts basically served two core purposes. You had your defensive bunkers, think of the Atlantic Wall, huge concrete structures designed to take a beating from artillery and protect soldiers. And then you have the command bunkers, the secret nerve centers like the Churchill war rooms, where all the plans were made and the war was managed from deep beneath the ground. And the sheer scale of this effort is just mind-blowing. When you add it all up, the estimated cost for all the bunkers built by both the Axis and the Allies comes out to around $1 trillion in today's money. $1 trillion. The demand for concrete and steel was so insane, it actually caused global shortages of both. And if we're going to talk about massive projects, we have to talk about the big one, the Atlantic Wall. This was Hitler's concrete behemoth, his grand plan to make the entire coastline of Europe an impenetrable fortress. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number. 2,400 miles. That is about the distance from New York City to Las Vegas, an almost unbroken chain of thousands of bunkers and gun emplacements, all the way from the snowy coasts of Norway down to the border of France and Spain. It's just incredible. And the human cost to build this thing was just staggering. We're talking about more than 250,000 workers, and these weren't volunteers. Most were prisoners of war and forced laborers, working in brutal conditions for 4 straight years. It was a monumental piece of engineering built on a foundation of human misery. All right, so you're the Allies. You're looking across the channel at this 2,400-mile-long concrete monster. What do you do? How in the world do you even begin to attack something like that? Well, they learned the hard way. In 1942, they tried a test run, the Dieppe Raid. It was an absolute catastrophe. Of the 6,000 mostly Canadian soldiers who went in, more than half were killed or captured. That brutal lesson forced a complete change in strategy. They went back to their own command bunkers and planned for 2 years. And it all led to June 6, 1944, D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in human history, all designed for one purpose, to finally crack that wall. And it's so important to remember, this wasn't just happening in Europe. This was a truly global phenomenon. You had Japan's secret tunnels on Iwo Jima, France's famous Maginot Line. Pretty much every major power in the war was digging in. Underground warfare really did define the era. So that brings us to our final section, the legacy of this hidden history. And it raises a really interesting question. If all these massive structures were built all over the globe, why are so many of them still lost? Well, it comes down to a few key things. For one, they were masters of camouflage, designed to just disappear into the landscape. Two, as soldiers retreated, they often blew up the entrances behind them to cover their tracks. Plus, countless secret maps and documents were burned or lost in the chaos. And honestly, after the war, with an entire continent to rebuild, a lot of these places were just forgotten. And if you want to talk about the ultimate and secret bunkers, you have to look at Hitler's personal fortresses. You had the Eagle's Nest, his bomb-proof mountain retreat. The famous Führer bunker in Berlin, where he died, is now completely gone, buried under an ordinary parking lot. And maybe the most incredible, the Wolf's Lair, a giant fortress in the forest with a 22-foot thick roof that had trees planted on top of it, making it totally invisible from the sky. All of which leaves us with one last kind of amazing thought. If a tunnel that's been lost for 80 years can just suddenly reappear from under a dead volcano in Poland, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible secrets from that world-changing war are still out there, buried right beneath our feet, just waiting to be found?